If you just got engaged or you're a 2026, 2028 bride, listen up because this is information that I wish somebody would have told me when I first got engaged back in 2024. Our wedding is coming up now in September of this year, and we have been actually planning the wedding for about a year. We booked our first vendor in September 2025, so exactly 1 year from the wedding. And there's one key thing that my partner and I did that I wish so many more people knew. And this question has been popping up in my For You page over and over again from 2027 and 2028 brides, which is which credit card do they use to purchase all things and pay all the vendors to maximize their credit card points? When we first embarked into this journey, we actually did a ton of research on this and we got all of the credit cards that we needed to maximize our points. And now, 1 year in, we've actually gathered over 500,000 points that we plan to use for our honeymoon. First, I want to put a disclaimer because there's a lot of mixed opinions on this. Having credit cards do not mean that you accrue debt. If you're actually using your credit cards responsibly and paying them accordingly, you're actually just earning points. What I mean by using them responsibly is that whatever charges you accrue on the credit card, you pay them off at the end of the month or when that payment is due. You want to make sure that you're paying off your statement credits so that you're not accruing interest or accruing any debt. So the rule of thumb would be only pay on your credit card what you would be able to pay on your debit card. So think about it as if you're just using your own money to make the payment, except you're putting it on the credit card and then immediately paying it back with your debit card. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into the nitty gritty. The main two that I would recommend that you and your partner get would be the Chase Sapphire Reserve and the Capital One Venture X. The way that we went about this is I got some of the credit cards and my partner got some of the credit cards, and we're just paying things accordingly to which card gives us the most points based on the transaction. The card that gives you the most points on travel items, so for instance, a hotel or a plane ticket, would be the Chase Sapphire Reserve. And as of today, you can also redeem whatever points that you earn on the Chase ecosystem at 1.5x of the travel points using the Sapphire Reserve. So for example, in our case, our wedding venue is actually a hotel, which whenever they do run the transaction to pay off the venue, they run it as lodging. So because it's run as lodging, we use it on the Chase Sapphire Reserve because it gives us 10 times the points on one of our biggest wedding expenses. So if we're paying $20,000 on the wedding venue, that's 200,000 points just on the venue alone. Now, the second major credit card that you should be looking into is the Capital One Venture X. This is the only card that we own that gives us 2 times the miles on every purchases regardless of what the purchase is. So whatever transactions do not fit in a specific category where we maximize the point somewhere else, for instance, the lodging situation where we would put it on the Sapphire Reserve, we run all the minor things, invitations, florals, cake, etc., 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 you would put that in the Venture X. It also helps that if you're opening now, I believe you have like 30 days or a couple months or so, read the fine print, but you have to spend, I believe, $5,000 and then they give you X amount of points. I think when I got it, it was like 75,000 bonus points if you spent that amount of money, which if you're doing all the wedding vendors and securing them, you will spend that amount of money pretty fast. So it's a pretty easy way to get a huge amount of bonus points right off the bat. Now, the next big key thing on this, and this is just a little bit more of the nitty gritty things that we looked into, is just getting additional cards that give us bonus points on certain other major things that we buy all of the time, even if they're not part of the wedding. For example, groceries, right? For groceries, what I like to do is I order my groceries online and then I just go pick them up. That saves myself some time so that I can also go back and do more wedding things. And with that being said, I also have the Chase Sapphire Preferred. This is different from the Reserve card. They have different bonus points on different items. So for instance, the Chase Sapphire Preferred gives me 3 times the points on every online grocery purchase. If you want to keep things within the Chase Sapphire ecosystem and you don't want to get the Capital One Venture X, then I would recommend getting the Chase Freedom Unlimited because this one gives you 1.5x points on all your purchases. And it's pretty easy to transfer then to the Sapphire Reserve using the Chase ecosystem. Here's the cool part about the Chase ecosystem. Even if you're not the owner of the account, you can still transfer points to another account as long as you live in the same household, like you have the same address even if you're not married. So like all of the points that I earn in my Chase Sapphire Preferred, I can just transfer them to my partner's account and redeem it at 1.5x rate on the Sapphire Reserve. So all of the points that I gain on my account, I simply transfer them over to his account so that we can redeem it at a higher redeem rate. If you're like us and you're using Amazon to buy a lot of things for the wedding as well, the Amazon Prime card is also part of the Chase Sapphire ecosystem. So we just run all the Amazon purchases through that card. And then the last card that nobody really tells you about all of the time, we have the Build card by Wells Fargo. The only reason we have this card in the first place is because it's one of the only cards that actually give you points for paying your rent or your mortgage. Who wouldn't want points for things that you're already purchasing in a day-to-day basis? And the best part about this card is that you're not really getting any fees, or you're not getting charged anything extra for having the card. I know this sounds like a lot, but once you start getting used to this, it actually becomes so much easier. What we did at the beginning is we grabbed all the fine print, all of the details from all of the cards, and we put them into ChatGPT and had ChatGPT tell us which card to use for what. I know this sounds incredibly overwhelming, and if you're not really sure where to start with, I would just start with the first two cards, the Venture X by Capital One and the Chase Sapphire Reserve. That one also gives you great points on dining. So if you're eating out a lot, that's another card that you can use for that. The goal of really doing all of this and going above and beyond with all of this is that you can essentially get the most out of your money in one of the biggest expenses of your life, which is your wedding. So if you're able to essentially get your honeymoon paid off, or at least the tickets to get to your honeymoon paid off, like it is already such a win-win because you're already spending this money anyways. I truly believe that if I can do this, anybody can, because I was completely clueless with all of this until I actually started getting the cards. So the first thing that I would do before I start booking vendors would be to get the credit cards so that you can start putting these big payments on the credit cards right off the bat and earn the points and the rewards that they don't want you to earn as you're embarking in this expensive venture. I hope this was helpful, and if you have any other questions, just leave them in the comment down below. I will happily answer them. I am no expert myself, as I said. This has all been very new to me as well, but if we were able to accrue all of these points just over the last year with all of these vendors, I'm sure you can too.